I'm Harry Eskew in Macon, Georgia, and I've recently had a wonderful experience interviewing Mr. Raymond Hamrick, age 93. Mr. Hamrick is the oldest living and most famous of all Sacred Harp style music composers. He's been composing for many years. About a year ago, a collection of his music was published entitled The Georgian Harmony, and a hardback edition of this book is scheduled to be published in March of 2010.
I was born to it because my family all participated in it, all except me. I went, but I didn't participate because at the time it's just something else in my life. I really liked classical music more, and I didn't participate in Sacred Harp at all, but I went whenever the family went.
All right, so you went with your family but didn't actually sing?
No. Well, at that age, in the teens, you know, you're more interested in social things than you are musical, usually.
Yeah. What first got you really interested in Sacred Harp singing?
Well, when I came back from World War II, I was kind of at a loss. Contact, social and otherwise, it practically disappeared. In 4 years I was gone. But my brother, my older brother, had been to singing school, and he too had been raised in it, but had not taken any active part in it. But he went to the singing school that was going on, and he insisted that I go one night. I didn't want to, but I went. And I discovered that a lot of the people that were involved in it were people that I knew, young people my age, and because it was in the southern part of Bibb County, and I didn't know a lot of people down there. And I enjoyed it, and I went back, and I had been going to them about 3 or 4 months, and it suddenly struck me that this music was a little bit different from what I had thought it was. First thing I noticed was the dates on these songs, showing that they were composed in the 18th and 17th century, and some even older than that. And so I asked people that were teaching the school where did this music come from, and they very obligingly said that Mr. B.F. White did it. I said, well, B.F. White published this book in 1844, but a lot of this music goes back 100, 200 years before him, so he didn't write it. But they couldn't be convinced, so I finally found a reference to George Pullen Jackson, and I wrote him, and that's when I found out what it was all about, because he had just published, I think, 4 books, possibly 5 at that time, and later on he published the last one out of Florida State University. But I met him, and
where did you meet him?
over at
Carrollton?
No, over at Carrollton, yes. And he was a guest speaker there at one of the graduation ceremonies, and he was talking on the history of music, especially Sacred Harp. He was into it pretty deeply then. And I met him. He was quite a man. He was 81, I believe, at that time. He was just as sharp mentally as anybody could be. And I had a correspondence with him, and I got all of his books, not from him necessarily, but I had all but one. And I was visiting in Atlanta with Tom McGraw one time, and we were talking about Jackson, and he said, well, you know, Dr. Jackson gave me a book one time about this stuff, and he said, it's too deep for me. And he said, would you like to have it? And I said, well, what is it? I said, I've got all but one. And he said, well, I'll go get it. So he did, and of course it was the one I didn't have. So he made me a present of it. He said, no, it was given to me, and I'm giving it to you because I think you'll enjoy it. So he was fairly deep into gospel music, and I had collected, along with my collection, I had just taken everything that was offered, and a lot of it was gospel music, so I gave him all of that, for which he was deeply grateful.
Yeah.
And so we both completed our accounts right there. Tom and I laughed about that a whole lot, that each one of us had something the other needed and wanted, and it just happened it came to fruition with us.
Sounds like a win-win transaction.
Yeah, a win-win transaction.
Now, two of the people that you knew, how did you meet Marcus Cagle and Hugh McGraw?
Well, I met Marcus at Sacred Harp Scenes, because he operated out of Atlanta in West Georgia, and I went over there. I was into Sacred Harp about a year and a half, and we started visiting up in that area where they had big scenes, and I met Marcus there. And I don't know, we hit it off immediately, and because my wife and I were both singers, and because we could sing, Marcus was this way: if you liked Sacred Harp or loved it, you were automatically one of his pets. And so we had a very interesting relationship. My wife and I used to go to Atlanta over the weekend quite frequently, and he and his wife and me and my wife would get together and we'd sing from Sacred Harp all day. So it's all, there are people everywhere that enjoy being able to sing music like that. It crosses the line between just music appreciation and religious feeling too, and it blends them together. And what they've got there is something that everybody can participate in. You know, you belong to a group, like I said, I sang with the Barbershoppers for 30 years. You're in a group that they auditioned and they want the best singers, and we don't draw the line there. We want people that like to sing, and if they don't have a very good voice or very accurate, our volume covers that up pretty well. And somebody asked me the other day, said, why do they sing so loud? And I said, that's the reason. Because once you can sing loud enough to cover the imperfections and bring out what you really want to hear, it makes it all worthwhile.
That's like they used to say in church, the organist covers a lot of sins in the choir loft.
And you hear the organ real loud, you imagine they got real problems in the choir loft.